Alright, in this tutorial I want to show you a cool little trick for tracing your car onto the block. To begin, you're actually going to want to go to Google Images, and search for car profile, blueprint, or line art. It's going to give you a lot of pictures that look like this. And these are going to be great for bringing right into Sketchup and actually using as a template to make your car. So the one that I found that I'm going to use is this one. So I'm going to start by saving the image to my computer, and I'll just put that into my pictures folder, and I'll just call this rally car and save. And then once it's in there, you can actually import that into your SketchUp project. So I'll go to File, Import, and go back to Pictures and find my rally car. Now you're going to want to actually place that on the face of the block that you're going to work with. So I'll start with it here on the corner, and then it wants me to resize it, and you can kind of estimate the size of the block. We'll just do that for now, and then we can make some adjustments. So the easiest way to do this is actually to orbit around to the back side, and if you click on the face here of the inside of the block, we're going to delete that by pressing the delete button, not the backspace button, but the delete button. So now I can actually see through it to my car, and then we'll use the move tool to align the part of the car that we want on the box. This is where we want to be careful to make sure that it stays on the face. You can see it's moving around a bunch here. So right there it says on blue axis. That's good. That means it's just going straight up and down. And then we're going to have to use the scale tool to actually change the size so that the car fills up the whole block. You're going to want the car to take up as much of the block as possible, so you've got a nice sized car. So I'll scale this. Looks like I need to select it first, then scale it with the scale tool. And I can stretch that out so the back of the car is on the back of the block, and the front of the car should be on the front of the block. Looks like we'll have to do this a little bit more. And then I can move it again so that, there we go, on the blue axis. And I want the bottom of the car to just line up with the bottom of the block. It's important that your car pretty much touches the bottom of the block all the way across. As we do a 3D print, if there's space underneath and there's no plastic underneath, it's not going to print very well. So this looks like I've got the car in that box pretty well. Now I'll orbit back around to the front, and you can see my box here, this dark black line around it. And now I'm going to start sketching, and I recommend trying to use straight lines as much as possible. The curved lines from the arc look really nice, but they're also a lot more difficult to work with. So I'm going to try to do this as much as possible with straight edges, and sometimes you actually have to zoom in to be more specific. So I'll start right here, do my little bumper down here at the bottom, and kind of angle back. You notice I'm not making a perfect replica of the car, but just kind of a simplified version. Now when it closes off like this, now I can't see my car anymore. So you can just erase one of the edges so that you can keep drawing your lines, and then we can close that back in later. So let's do the back of the bumper, maybe like that. And we'll work our way up the back of the car. There's our back window. I'm going to cut off the spoiler for now, and we'll talk about how to add a spoiler later. So we'll go around there. And let's go ahead and try a curved piece on the top. So I'll start at the end point of where I left off. And the way the arc tool works is you're going to draw a straight line, and then you're going to add a curve to it. So let's see if we can go to maybe right around there where the window starts, and then I can curve it up a little bit. Use the pan tool to scoot over. Windows, I definitely recommend trying to use straight lines. If you're going to do a 3D window and actually have it be pushed in, being straight is really going to help. But now for the hood, I'll do another curved line starting at the end point, trying to kind of cut straight across, and then we'll curve it up. And again, as soon as I close this off to one surface, it's going to close off the whole thing. I think that's pretty much the outline of my car, so I'll go ahead and leave it like that. Then I can erase these other lines that we don't need. And now I've got a quick little sketch of my car. What I like to do, just so I can see what I'm working on a little bit better, is hide the picture for a little bit. And you can do that by just right-clicking on it and going to hide. And the rest of the tutorial for making a car, the first few steps, mentions erasing these other lines that are back here. So I'll get rid of all of these. And then pushing the car back into 3 dimensions with the push-pull tool. And I believe it suggests 30 millimeters. So sometimes it's easier if you zoom in. You can be a little bit more precise. And now if I try pushing it, I should be able to get it to stop at exactly 30. So now I'm starting to get the shape of my car a little bit, but I want to add the details of the window. And you can see my car is on the image. And to add the windows, I'm going to just erase this body piece of the car. We'll be able to add it back in very quickly, so that I can kind of sketch out where I want my windows to go. Again, the straighter lines are easier to work with. If you want to do some work with curves, this one especially would look kind of nice if I actually had curved windows. But for now, I'm just going to try to keep it simple. And just kind of roughly estimate the shape. You notice I'm having to zoom in quite often if it's not letting me click exactly where I want it to be. So let's do one more there, and then we'll close that off. And you can see that window is now in place. And I'm going to go ahead and try to do a curve here for this part. So I'm going to sketch from there to there and kind of push it up. So I've now got my windows on there. Alright, to do the wheel wells, so I'll start with the circle tool right in the center. And I want to make sure I'm looking down here at the radius of my wheel so that I can make both wheels the same size. This is 10.8. I believe the tutorial recommends at least 12. So I'm going to bump this up a little bit larger than the actual car and have a radius of 12. And then I'm going to go do that on the back wheel as well. Again, when it fills in, you can just delete that for a moment, and we'll draw our next wheel. Now, Sketchup is kind of smart. It can tell that I just did one circle and I'm trying to do another one near the same place with the same height. So it's actually showing this dotted green line, saying it's trying to make a circle from the same height as the last one, from the center. So that's really nice. And we can try to center it there on that wheel. And then again, try to make sure it's the same size, which is 12.0. And so now we've got my two wheels that are the same height. Now this one, you see this a lot as you're working with SketchUp. If you get a blue piece, that means that SketchUp thinks that's the inside of the piece instead of the outside. So we're going to fix that by right-clicking on it and going to reverse. We can do this one as well, even though we're about to erase it. That way we don't have any blue pieces. So now let's go ahead and hide the image. And we're going to erase the bottom of these circles. Again, when we print an object in 3D, it needs to be flat. And if these wheels are sticking out on the bottom, we're going to have a lot of problems. So we're going to erase that. And remember, as you're working on your tutorial, you're actually only creating half of the car at a time. So your windows and your wheels and any details you put on it, you're just going to put on this part of the car, and the other side is just going to stay flat. And we'll actually show you how to put those two halves together in a later tutorial, but that's going to save you a lot of time, because instead of making 4 wheels and 6 windows, I only have to do 2 wheels and 3 windows.